Variety of blockchain startups and companies that are solving some very interesting issues in the blockchain space. Let's do a round to introduce yourself and what your company does.
My name is Pavel Baines, CEO, co-founder of Buzel. We're building a decentralized database, which means that we're finding new ways for blockchain projects and non-blockchain projects to secure their data in a much more secure, scalable, reliable way, so all your data is better protected as opposed to all the data leaks that are happening now that's manipulating your data.
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is Karan Bharadwaj. I'm the CTO of Zinfin. We're creating what we call a hybrid blockchain. It's a protocol on its own. It's going to have a public state and the ability to host private subnetworks, permission blockchains essentially. So, leveraging the power of both public blockchains and private blockchains.
Hello, my name is Miguel Coneta. I'm from the Philippines, and I'm from a startup called SEI Ventures. We've been operating since 2014, and we are one of the first exchanges, cryptocurrency exchanges in the Philippines to get a central bank approval and license to operate. We do payments, remittances, mobile money, and also exchange of cryptocurrencies into fiat. That's our main business.
Hi, morning everyone. My name is Brian Lee. I'm the co-founder of a company called Fund Places based in Singapore. What we do is we digitize real estate on the blockchain to make it easy for people to invest and trade in real estate. Our belief is that real estate should be accessible to everyone and not just the privileged few. So we're trying to make it easy for anyone with even a limited amount of money to start investing into real estate.
Thank you. Pablo, maybe I would like to start with you because you're solving something that's actually really necessary, which is that I think we all kind of roughly understand that the blockchain is a revolution in computing, it's a new type of database, and Buzel is trying to solve something at sort of the middleware layer, right? So you have a token, and the token is incentivizing people to contribute hardware resources to this network. Is that right? Maybe tell us a little bit, flesh it out a little bit, because it's still, it's quite technical in some sense.
So what we believe is we're at the era of building a decentralized internet. So we're going to recreate how everything is done. So right now the current internet is broken in terms of security because it just grew too fast, too many users, too much data being exchanged. That's where you're getting all these data breaches and leaks. So a lot of the blockchain technology companies, aside from cryptocurrency, is recreating that internet in a decentralized way. So if you look at it, you've got like Ethereum would be like Windows or iOS, it's an operating system. You've got Golem, which is high-speed processing and computer rendering. So you can do more calculations in a decentralized internet. You've got things like IPFS, which is file storage, so storing files in a decentralized manner. So where Buzel fits that gap is we're like Oracle. So instead of where Oracle in the traditional internet, everybody knows that store your data here, we're saying that's not reliable, it's not. The cloud-based centralized internet just isn't equipped. So what we're rolling is saying we're going to be the role of Oracle in this new internet and saying let's take all that data, store it decentralized in thousands of nodes around the world. You as users, it's almost like Airbnb. You've got an extra room at home, you rent it out. We're saying rent out your computer hardware, you earn our currency, and then our customers are like paying that currency, and their data is much more secure and scalable and reliable.
So you have two types of tokens, right? You have a token that's running on the Ethereum blockchain, and you have a token that's native to your own mainnet. Can you talk a little bit about the tokenization and the sort of the dynamics of that within your system?
Yeah, so we have the BLZ token, which is the main one, and that's what we raise our funds through and everybody uses. So that is an ERC20, it's on Ethereum, and why people like that is basically Ethereum's a funding mechanism. We didn't want to create our own wallet, our own blockchain, and have people raise through that. There's usability issues. But you also can't use Ethereum to validate your data on a database, because if you're a developer, you want fast access to your data. If you create something, read, update, delete, you're not going to wait 2 to 3 minutes for Ethereum to verify that change just to keep using your database. So we had to create our own token separately on our own network So what happens is, let's say you've got $100 worth of BlueZell tokens, you want to use a product, we swap that out. Once you want to use a service, we lock it up, swap it out, and you get our internal token. Then you're using the product all the time, and then eventually if you're like, hey, I want to cash out, you swap that back out to BLZ, and you can take that to an exchange. So it's really about usability.
Karen, you are running a hybrid blockchain solution. This is very interesting. So maybe you can give us like a 1-minute overview of the difference between public networks and permission networks, and obviously you're trying to fuse the benefits of both with your solution.
Sure,
Yes?
sure. So with permission and private blockchains, there really is no competitive angle. For public blockchains, a lot of the validity of the blockchain comes from how the network is competitive, parts of the network are competitive. For private permission blockchains, participants are known, and they must be known, because we are enterprise facing, so enterprises have very strict data visibility and data security needs. And so with that perspective in mind, we wanted to build the blockchain from the top down, looking at what needs the enterprise, what needs enterprises have, and what advantage blockchain technology brings to them.
So both of you are running systems that have tokens that are publicly traded. Has the recent downturn, Ethereum was trading at 800 in May, now it's 450. Has the overall downturn in the crypto market affected your business operations at all? Do you guys look at price? Is it on a day-to-day basis? Does it affect your staff, your operations, your development, your relations with your investors, your token holders?
I mean, yeah, I look at the price every day because we're in the industry, but it doesn't really affect it. Like, it's just the volatility of the business and the nature of the industry. We know it goes up, goes down, it bounces back. Summer might change. Ethereum could be back at $1,400. So I don't really get fazed by it. We just focus on the product, and we have our budget, we have our funds, and it's just about delivering. That's what our goal is. So if you look at it day to day, then you're not really worrying about your product and the long term, and then you only look at it day to day and you're worried if you're trading on a day to day basis. We're building a platform, so we're not really concerned.
Miguel, can you fill us in a little bit on the Filipino? So tell us, so you guys are a crypto gateway in the Philippines. Yes, you guys are exchange. You guys facilitate remittances with Bitcoin. Tell us a little about the environment in the Philippines.
Well, like these guys, we're not building our own blockchains. We're using the biggest and the most popular ones like Bitcoin, Ethereum, to provide financial services. So if you guys are not aware, in the Philippines receives about $28 billion a year in remittances inward, going in. Third in the world, next only to India and China. And average, they pay about 8 to 10% in fees. So this was the main problem that we wanted to solve. And we figured out a way to use Bitcoin to allow Filipinos outside the Philippines, or anybody outside the Philippines, to remit money to the Philippines using Bitcoin as a payment mechanism, as a money transfer vehicle, and they'll save half of that 10% when they use that system. The industry from 4 years ago, when it was like very, very small, I remember our first month we did $20,000 in transaction volume. That was in 2014. But today it's in tens of millions of dollars in terms of transaction volumes. And right now the industry is growing. There are almost 30 new startups entering the space, besides the existing ones today. And in terms of payments, the whole country, Philippines is a kind of a unique situation where you have 99% of commerce done in cash, and virtually no credit card penetration, only 3%. But everybody has a smartphone. Everybody's connected. We're the biggest. We're the biggest number of Facebook users in the world. So there's this kind of perfect storm for crypto and blockchain stuff to come in and just skip this generation of financial services, financial gateways like credit cards and
how has you found the regulatory environment in the Philippines? Is that easy for startups to do business, crypto startups?
Yeah, that's good to brought that up. In 2014, we started engaging our central bank, and last year they came out with a regulation that's favorable to cryptocurrency blockchain startups in the Philippines. Basically, it's called the Virtual Currency Exchange Registration Circular. So now we operate as a central bank covered entity. So that's pretty good for us. Gets a lot of the fear and uncertainty out of the business.
Brian, Fund Places is a real estate solution. So I think there is elements of fractionalization and crowdfunding, but in our conversation earlier, you told me a little bit about the use case of blockchain with real estate. Maybe you can expand upon that. What is blockchain for in the real estate solution?
As you correctly pointed out, really it's partly to do with the fractionalization of assets, right? If you think about it, for us today, if you want to go and buy a property, for example, in Singapore, it will cost you about $1 million. Not many people can actually afford that $1 million, right? But with the blockchain, you can actually fractionalize that investment and make it much more accessible to users. Some of the other, of course, benefits would be through the blockchain, right? We can add a layer of trust and transparency, and it also makes it a lot more efficient for us to process the transactions. Just to give an example, I was sharing with Kenneth earlier, even large established markets, for example in the US, right, with the equivalent of the Singapore CDP, which is the DTC there was a company in the US called Gold Corporation, which went through a privatization exercise. And when they finished the entire exercise, they realized that there were actually more shareholders than there were in their own records, right? And that would never ever happen if you replace the entire transaction on the blockchain, right? Because there's only a certain number of fixed tokens that were ever issued. So you never ever create more tokens than there were actually ever were. So for the people who actually purchase our tiles, as we call them, they have this level of comfort that whenever they own a tile, that's the only tile that's going to be in existence. There aren't going to be more tiles that are ever going to be produced.
So you are running multi-chain, right? One of the blockchain enterprise permission blockchain solutions out there. How did you decide on multi-chain? And tell us a little bit about that selection process that you took as an entrepreneur to decide, which base layer blockchain to build on.
So when we initially started, we actually built the platform on the Bitcoin blockchain because it was the most established. But then what we saw was that, of course, prices kept going higher and higher. Cost to confirm transactions kept getting more and more for us, much slower to actually confirm transactions as well. So for us, that's not possible. So we finally decided on a private blockchain. At that time, hybrid blockchains were not prevalent, right? So we looked at building a private blockchain, and multi-chain at that time was probably one of the more established private blockchains out there in the market. So that's how we ended up using it.
Okay, so now sort of general thoughts on the industry. I think we have all seen a lot of speculation going on in the crypto markets. We've seen a lot of very flimsy white papers out there that raised a lot of money, earlier this year. It seems to me, my personal opinion, that the sort of mood is sort of dying down, and we're sort of waiting for a lot of implementations on the infrastructure level, shall we say, of blockchains. Where do you see us going until the end of the year? A general question, but sort of in terms of the implementations of the systems and where the market is going. What are some of your predictions until the end of 2018?
I would say the technology, like you said, all the projects that were in the works for like 2016 and 2017, they're coming to market now. They're going to be showing how these technologies can be used, specific use cases. So you're going to see the maturing of the last year's products and earlier this year starting to come out and show how it can be used. You're going to see more collaborations between the different technologies, building out just really cool things that can happen. I think you'll start seeing more stuff around crypto adoption, making things easier for people to use, because it still is, despite what everybody says, it's very niche. Not many people can buy a cryptocurrency. There is no bubble in this stuff. It's not overhyped. It's because my aunt can't buy a Bitcoin. Right?
I think it's access.
Yeah, it's access. I mean, when they say a bubble, you can't compare it to 1999. My dad could go buy stock in pets.com or some flimsy stock that was same thing, made on fake stuff, but he could easily go and retailers got scammed because they could just buy it through the bank account. You can't do that in this space. It's still very hard. So it's still very small in the niche, and it's still going to just keep growing. We're probably just move into a different phase where people are kind of like settling down, seeing what's happening, and it'll just start going right up again.
I actually, so what I'd like to say on the matter, and I disagree slightly with Brian, we are seeing this slump today because we are not looking at the other part of technical innovation. So technical innovation happens, but the other part of technical innovation is the regulation. So the regulatory aspect goes hand in hand with technical innovation. Today, technical regulatory frameworks are more evolved and more developed. But back in the day, they weren't as developed. What I'm trying to say is that with new technology, there is always a regulatory challenge. And the current slump that you see is, in a large part, it can be attributed to this regulatory slog. It's a global slog. There are governments clamping down on fiat channels to all kinds of crypto applications, exchanges, etc. And as soon as the regulatory framework is in place, we'll see the crypto space, new energy. So,
but it's still going to be a patchwork kind of solution, right?
It's all, from my perspective, all social enterprise is patchwork. Like, there is no perfect technology, there is no perfect regulation. It's all this.
Well, I always say that the price of crypto is the least interesting thing about it. I've been in the industry for about 5 years now, and I've seen this hype cycle happen over and over again. And the good news about when it's on a downtrend and that kind of stabilizes when it's down is the work gets done. So the people that rode that hype, made money there, can put that money to good use. And I think that also you're right that we're far ahead from getting into the mainstream, the mind of everybody else. Maybe less than 0.1% of the world is using crypto or blockchain. I think we've got our work cut out for us, but like for us, for example, we make it as easy as possible for people to access this kind of thing. In the Philippines, it's pretty easy to buy Bitcoin and to send, convert it to fiat or to pay for something. You can pay your bills. You can, do a lot of things with Bitcoin. And we only see it growing. Like I said, there are at least 30 new startups that are gonna come out of the Philippines, and they'll all want to get into this space. So yeah, we're really excited for this year and next year. Hopefully a lot of work gets done before the next hype cycle happens again.
Yeah, I think it's important to differentiate between the blockchain and crypto assets, right? So I think certainly for the blockchain, it's very exciting this year because you're going to see a lot of scaling solutions that are going to be starting to come out, both layer 1 and layer 2 scaling solutions. In terms of the price action, of course, that's a completely different story, right? Obviously, people who bought at 20,000 aren't as happy today. But I think what's important to note that, my personal view, I think it will take a long time, if ever, that things like Bitcoin become a currency. And the reason is this, right? If you and me both think that the price of the Bitcoin is going to continue going higher, we will never use our Bitcoin. We will rather hoard it and keep it, which basically makes Bitcoin a deflationary currency, right? And if it's a deflationary currency, that deflationary currencies have never worked. I mean, you just look at what happened in the US in the 1930s, what's happening even in Japan today, right? None of us wants to live in a country that's undergoing deflation. So I think for Bitcoin and other crypto assets to actually come into the mainstream and be used as a currency, the price has to be a lot more stable than what it is today. And the expectation of price gains has to be a lot less.
Do you have any questions from the floor? Can we put up the Slido question list?
Wait, can I counter that? Maybe Bitcoin's not a currency. It's an asset. It's a store of value. The tokens that are done are the currency that's going to be used, right? Like I firmly disagree that Bitcoin should be a global currency. There's a multitude of reasons why you can't have a global currency. If anything, cities need to have more currencies and not be dependent on a national state that benefits certain parts of the country, but not. Like Singapore, Hong Kong are good examples. Canada is held back because the middle of Canada does not do well, where Vancouver is very affluent. A Vancouver currency would be very strong against the US dollar. I could go over the border and do that, but I'm suffering and paying more because Saskatchewan and Alberta have dropped the ball. So I think what you guys say is like, Bitcoin is a certain asset class, Ethereum will, and all these tokens are the new forms of currency that we can change and do goods with. So it's actually accomplishing a lot more.
Okay, so talking about revenue and profit, right? So the sort of the model in a lot of these, well, imagine Ethereum, right? Ethereum doesn't have a profit model, right? The price of the token goes up as more people adopt it. Now, as an entrepreneur, are you looking at more of a real world revenue kind of model, or are you looking to grow your token ecosystem as a shared kind of commons? You know, how do you think about growing the business essentially? Is that profit driven or more community adoption driven?
For us, it's about building our new data economy and this ecosystem. So making wider uses and better uses of the product. The problem mostly sells around data management and storage. That's the core. And then the more applications and products that can be built by others that use token velocity, increases the velocity of the token, that benefits everybody else. So we're at this stage because of the funding we got. It's about building that ecosystem and having that framework that people can start doing all these crazy things. Then the pure company profit, we can worry about that later. We still got to build out the main parts.
For us, it's also community. We're looking to build a large community of participants, all kinds of participants, devs who are building apps, enterprises who are hosting what we call master nodes, participating in the hybrid blockchain, hosting their enterprise solutions on our permission part of our blockchain. So for us as well, it's a community effort. And while we do have a token, our monetization comes from somewhere else.
Well, our business model is simple. We are basically an exchange. All of these currencies, all of these tokens, we want to provide the infrastructure to allow it to flow freely from one another into one another, exchanging to fiat and back, making that seamless, making that effortless for anybody. So, I mean, we envision a future maybe soon where anyone can just have like one interoperable wallet where everyone can trade with each other easily, not just crypto, but other assets, tokenized securities, tokenized assets, property, all of these things in the way we exchange emails today. So our revenue model, and we are actually a profitable company now after 4 years, and this exchange will always happen. I think right now it's a $200 billion industry. We think it's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry in the next few years. So we want to be there to facilitate that.
I think a bit of both. So certainly community for us is very important because we want people to actually use the tiles and actually trade them. But of course profitability is important as well because we want to make sure that the business is here for the long term.
Talent. Have you guys found it difficult to source for blockchain engineers? How do you think about bringing in talent from the region or where you guys are operating? You guys are both operating in Singapore, Philippines, right? So Singapore is a very, very small catchment, right, for talent. You guys look elsewhere for your talent, or are you guys okay with the dev teams that you have?
Talent is scarce, I'm not going to lie. It's been difficult setting up dev teams. At this point, I have a system. I think we all develop a system. It's easy to train blockchain talent once you're fairly established, rather than go out and look for blockchain talent. That's just how we definitely need more devs. There's always a dearth of good blockchain devs.
You're right. It's actually hard and expensive to get blockchain developers. So we've gone the way of, right now we have about 25 developers in our team, and all of them are local in the Philippines. So we are actually training a lot of them. And not just that, we're looking into the future. We set up an organization called the Blockchain Association of the Philippines with different industries, including even some banks and some financial institutions. They want to build talent, they want to build blockchain developers, from the ground up. So we're looking into the long term. These organizations will find talent and will train them. So yeah, it's a long game for us, it's a marathon.
For us, like you said, friends, is developers around the world, there's a shortage. Like, that's globally known. So if you go specifically to blockchain, it's even smaller. For us, and then if you talk to any group who's hiring, where's your team? They're like, yeah, we're decentralized. You're talent wherever you can. And people are used to working remotely. So if you have a good team, you can manage that properly. For us, we've had the benefit that because we're not actually building on any blockchain, like Ethereum or anything, ours is a data stack. We need guys who understand networking, infrastructure, different aspects of infrastructure technologies. So we can draw from that talent pool. And because we are in the blockchain space and have an exciting, compelling thing, it allows us to, people are switching companies saying, well, they might be bored working at Amazon or Microsoft. So like, hey, this is exciting, and they don't need to actually be a Solidity developer to join us.
Yeah, I think similar. It is very hard to find tech talent, of course. We actually work. Our developers are actually located all over the world, so it's hard to find them just only in Singapore.
So, questions. 6 minutes left. Let's take the first one, the one in green. It's a recent startup company that intends to scale alongside the current market of crypto and blockchains. What advice do you have for us to take note of? I guess this is a general question. For what advice would you give for someone who's starting out in this space and looking to build a product in blockchain and crypto?
I would really identify what core problem you're solving. To me, there's only like 2 critical problems. Everything else has these dream things. I don't think they're going to be ready for a while. So either you got to solve an infrastructure problem, because none of this stuff works unless the infrastructure is right. So like, a database, there's file storage, computer rendering, processing. So that's an infrastructure layer. Or something with mass adoption. Make it more easier, user, have more liquidity, more exchanges, better wallets, stuff that allows more people to come into the market and freely use their crypto. Everything else anybody does, I say, is no man's land. You should figure out those 2 core problem areas.
I agree with that. I'd say the use case is very important. You want to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what exactly you're trying to solve. I think it's very useful to get into the industry really deep and try to understand what the problems are in the industry as well. For us, when we're making enterprise solutions on private permission blockchain, we need to do a fair bit of process re-engineering. So you really need to understand what the process is, where the inefficiencies are, and whether the blockchain can be useful in that.
I would say don't get into this space just because your friend from another startup raised $20 million in an ICO. So that's the wrong reason. I think it's more like figuring out what problem needs to be solved. Maybe in your region, like for us in the Philippines, it's money transfer. So we focused on that. Everywhere around the world, there's different problems. If your idea, if your startup can solve that with or without blockchain, better if, then do that. But don't just get into it because it's in. That's the best advice I could give.
I guess if the company's really started, I think probably partnerships and community. So blockchain community is actually it's one of those few things. It's one of those few things where community and partnership are very important. And I think a lot of the companies in the ecosystem are, because it's such a new ecosystem, are very willing to help each other out. So go and look for who you can partner with and work with that can immediately give you the head start in your business.
Actually, I want to add one more. Let's not even talk about the tech side of crypto or the problem there. This is a burgeoning industry that has a lot of problems itself. So, these guys can attest, you need people doing better marketing for certain companies. when we're talking about adoption, it might not be tech or better wallets. There should just be educational seminars more often that can teach the average person of what to wear, not to go for a scam. Here's how you use a wallet. So it's like basically anything you want to do, you can apply to a brand new industry. So I was reading something about, professor of Nobel Prize of economics said something about Bitcoin. It could be like the tulip bubble. It went this. That's fundamentally wrong. That would only be true if tulips had an industry around just tulips. There was already a flower industry. There's already a commodities industry talking about flower assets and prices of that. So crypto and Bitcoin is a completely separate industry, so you can't compare it like a bubble that just because a Bitcoin goes up or pops. There's people leaving jobs, journalists creating new publications, people basically creating new exchanges or hedge funds or creating a burgeoning of an industry. You're telling me all these people are going to just die off and the company, they're going to allow this industry to fall just because of Bitcoin price that people think is speculative? So what I'm saying is basically don't just think about the crypto side. I'm pretty sure Miguel could say just in Philippines, education, marketing, all those things are problems that need to be solved. So everybody should be getting in and figuring out what they're best at and not even worry about the tech side. There's these other parts to it.
Technical question here with quantum computing. Do you guys know anything about this one? Want to make some comments on this? How does crypto work with quantum computing?
I have a background in physics, so
Nice.
I suppose I can.
Thank God.
I want to hear this.
I'm actually, so I did one of my final projects, or thesis if you want to call it, on quantum computing. And back then, this was maybe 8 years ago. I'm very skeptical about quantum computing actually coming to the fore. There are a lot of problems with quantum computing. Let's say they're solved in the future. There are strategies in cryptography to counter whatever Shor's algorithm, whatever algorithm is going to be implemented. That's crypto is safe is what I'm saying.
And if I could add to that, I think if somebody builds a quantum computer that can have anything, then the least of our problems will be crypto. Banks, governments, all of these things will be threatened. So, yeah.
Okay. Anything else to add? Otherwise, let's thank our panelists for a great session.